What's going on, everybody? It's Policies here, and welcome back to a brand new video. I've been avoiding this topic for a while now, but the media just hasn't really done its job in looking into this guy. I mean, this man could possibly be leading the country, literally on both domestic and foreign policy fronts. And no, everybody, I'm not talking about Donald J. Trump. I'm talking about his bigoted, sexist, and idiotic running mate, Mike Pence. I was actually really shocked that Trump picked Pence for his VP slot, but it really appeared to be the last option left for him. Chris Christie, a fraud who has sold his soul over to the Trump campaign and who is hoping that he can possibly get a seat on Trump's cabinet, maybe as the Attorney General or something, or Secretary. And then there was Ben Carson, who would just burn Trump's campaign straight up the flames. Ben Carson literally has no idea what he's ever talking about in terms of policy. I mean, when it comes to surgery, brain surgery, I'm sure he's an expert. And I think he's a global expert. When it comes to politics, if you read some of the things Ben Carson has said or watch some videos of Ben Carson, the guy is a complete moron. Literally no idea what he's talking about. So when it comes down to Mike Pence, he straight up hates gays. He's also a really stupid man. He's claimed that Obamacare is like one of the worst things that has ever happened for the nation. And he has said many sexist and terrible things. But let's be honest, he's probably a little bit better than Newt Gingrich, the former Speaker of House, who's also a total loser. I mean, Newt Gingrich accused Bill Clinton of cheating while he was doing the same thing. Remember in the 90s when Bill Clinton was possibly getting impeached and Newt Gingrich and his team of Republicans were accusing him of banging Monica Lewinsky, which came out to be true. But Newt Gingrich was also sleeping around and cheating on his wife, which came out. Pretty much every guy that accused Bill Clinton of cheating in politics was doing the same thing. So it's kind of funny, actually, when you think about it, because Trump and Newt Gingrich, if you put them together in the same ticket, they each have, in total, it'd be like 6 divorces. But I just thought that Trump would have shocked us by choosing someone who's actually halfway decent as his VP. Not Mike Pence. Mike Pence is just shallow and weak and bigoted. I thought he would have chose somebody like Marco Rubio. But Rubio was just too smart to jump on the Trump train and completely risk his political future with Trump, knowing that Trump, chances are, was going to lose to Hillary Clinton. So let's get back to Mike Pence. He has really gotten a free pass from the media. Fox News was saying that he would balance Trump out since he's cool-headed, which is quite true. And they say he's also pretty good with policy, which is not true. And even some more liberal media channels were saying that Pence was a good choice for Trump. But honestly, from my deep opinion, from my serious feelings, from what I've been reading and researching on Mike Pence, he was possibly the worst choice he could have made next to Newt Gingrich and Chris Christie. And it's arguably much worse than those guys too, I would say. And actually, the funny thing is, Trump realized this. And he was making phone calls late at night the day before the announcement with his team to see if he could reverse the decision and bring on somebody else. Trump was scrambling to make sure Pence was not the VP pick. But it was too late. I mean, Trump already realized that Mike Pence was a super conservative who actually never got anything done. He tried to sign on some really draconian, really conservative, discriminatory bills that would attack gays and attack the LGBT community and even attack women. And they actually all failed. He backed down on pretty much every bill. But it was just too late for Trump. It was too late. Mike was already, as soon as he got the offer, Mike Pence and his wife were on the plane headed to Trump Tower. And the deal was done. And Pence was happy because he had literally nowhere to go. He was going to have to run for re-election for Indiana governor, and the polls were bad for him. He just couldn't win. He had a record of trying to pass highly conservative legislation, and he could never get it done. I mean, everything he did resulted in a loss of jobs. It resulted in people getting pissed the hell off because he was either trying to attack gays or he was trying to attack women. But back to Mike Pence. The reason we have to worry about Mike Pence and why we should pay attention to him is because he will be running the country. Yeah, Mike Pence, if Donald Trump wins, will be running the country. Not Donald Trump. Donald Trump won't be running anything. Like he said, he'll just be focused on making America great again. Mike Pence will be running it. And Mike Pence will be, I think, that low-key, strong type of VP. He'll be like George Bush's Cheney, the VP who's making all the decisions because he thinks he actually knows what he's doing. Even Trump said Mike Pence would handle both domestic and foreign policy. And the New York Times journalist, it was a while ago, asked Trump what he would do then. Like, if Mike Pence is doing domestic and foreign policy, well then what is he going to be doing? And it was funny, like, Donald Trump just smiled back and said, I'll be focused on making America great again. Whatever that means. It seemed like Trump was joking, but honestly he was dead serious. So if Trump wins, Mike Pence will be running a place. And it's really, really scary, as a lot of people, especially in Trump's conservative base, have no idea who Mike Pence is, even though he's been on a VP ticket for a while now. And he's been on the media a lot. He's been on TV. He's been on a lot of radio channels. He's been campaigning. People don't really know who he is or what he's done with his life and what he's fought for. But pretty much to cut it short, Mike Pence is a total idiot. He is a fraud. He's bigoted, sexist. He has no courage. And both liberals and conservatives can hate him the same because he's screwed over both sides multiple times. He's actually a terrible politician. Pence will literally rip away decades of hard work that Democrats and Republicans have made in expanding health care to women. He will cut every single social net possible. He will pass any type of legislation that discriminates against gays. He's completely against gay marriage. He's against unions. He's against abortions 100%. With Mike Pence, there is no gray area. He's against it. And I think he would be worse than 10 George Bushes put together. He has a completely loose grip on reality. He once said that smoking won't kill you, and that global warming is just a myth. And he even said something that really pissed off a whole lot of women. I don't even know why his wife didn't slap him when she heard this. But he once said that single, hardworking mothers are bad for children. I mean, that statement that had to have been thought out. I mean, how did he get to that conclusion that single, hardworking mothers are terrible for children? That's just completely false. It's terrible. It's embarrassing. It's shameful. It's just disgusting. I mean, how could he say something like that? To get an idea of really who Mike Pence is, you have to look back, way back, into where he came from, what he's been doing with his life, and how he got into politics. The guy was a highly conservative and sexist and bigoted radio show host a long time ago, like 20 years ago. And one time he wrote a sexist opinion piece that cited Disney's Mulan, like the Disney movie Mulan, as evidence for why women shouldn't be in the military. How in the world did he make that connection? It caused headlines across Indiana and even nationally for a little bit. What in the world was he thinking making that connection between Disney's Mulan and women not working in the military? And then another super sexist opinion piece, the moron wrote in the late 1990s that working mothers stunt, this is quote, stunt emotional growth of their children. How can mothers stunt the emotional growth of their children? Obama's mom was a single mother, right? And I don't think she stunted the growth of Obama. I come from a single working mother. My growth wasn't stunted at all. It's just completely ridiculous he made that statement. And as a radio talk show host, he spouted hate, like literally hate, towards gays, and constantly talked about how Planned Parenthood is evil, from Satan, and should be shut down. The guy literally wants America to go back to the Puritan ages. You know, way back, 300 years ago. It's his idea, like his little idea of what America should look like. Like the nuclear family. You know, white man, white woman, 2 little kids, no gays at all, no blacks at all, nobody having sex with anybody else. Just that was his version of a perfect society, that structure set in place, and he wants to bring it back. So after spreading hate as a radio talk show host and writing insane and bigoted opinion articles, he ran for Congress in 1988 and got crushed twice. He got beat twice, and they were bad. Mainly because Pence was like literally taking donations, like political donations from his donors, and using it to play golf, make car payments for his wife, and paying his credit card bills and food. He also used the cash to pay for his house. And that's straight up fraudulent. That's like stealing. If I'm going to donate to a campaign, I'm expecting him to use it to, hire people, set up an office, invest in a campaign, not put it on your mortgage. I mean, that's where your own savings should come from. That's where your own investment should come from, not from the donors. But after getting crushed multiple times, Pence finally got into Congress as a representative. And he voted down a party line for 12 years straight as a rep. 12 years straight. He was a traditional conservative who never wavered. He always voted to cut regulation on businesses, lower taxes on the rich. He listened to the NRA on any gun regulation, and always faithfully voted against any type of social net. He would not work with Democrats or even moderate Republicans. He was a staunch, backwards man who really thought he had everything figured out. He had the perfect idea of what America was. Like, he's some historian. He could see back then to the 1800s, and he wanted to bring it back. His goal was to keep America back in time and to do everything possible to ensure that America doesn't become a more open and empathetic society. And then, as we all know, I think this is the history where we kind of get into, in which most of us kind of know about. He became the governor of Indiana. Ooh, go Pence. Pence really came into his own when he was governor and used his power to launch draconian and hateful policies across the state, causing major backlash that made him less of a man and embarrassed himself and his family. Now, this is the part where I think Trump realized he made a mistake when he chose Pence. Pence, as a governor, spent a lot of time finding ways to discriminate against gays. I know I talk about gays a lot. The reason is because Pence hates them. He doesn't like them. He thinks they're an abomination. In 2015, Mike Pence, the moron, was supporting the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. And he didn't even know what it was. He was on multiple interviews where he said, I regret supporting it. And he was like the main guy pushing for it. But he didn't even know it was in the bill. Go figure, right? And he would always do whatever he could to crusade against gays. Like he had some mental illness, like a gay person did something bad to him. Maybe beat him up or something as a kid. I have no idea, but he has something against him. Mike Pence also really hates abortions. Like, you probably have that Republican friend or that really moderate Democrat that doesn't like abortions, right? They think it's bad, and that's fine. But Mike Pence absolutely despises it. And he did everything possible, everything in his power, to attack Planned Parenthood and strip away women's rights to have an abortion to get access to health care that they need. He literally wanted to force women to hold a funeral for the medical waste that came from an abortion. Yeah, He literally wanted them to have a funeral for their abortion. He defunded Planned Parenthood and cut off as much funding as he possibly could from it. The idiot thought what he was doing was the works of God. He literally thought like he's some prophet here. And this is what he had to do. Cut off women from this evil domain. Mike Pence thinks he knows what women need more than they do. But since Mike Pence thinks that all Planned Parenthoods, all they do is abortion, which is totally wrong, because only about 2 to 3% of their services fall under abortions. He didn't even realize that the main thing he do was promote safe sex and do STD tests. And something that has been really undermined in the media, which should be totally out, is how under Mike Pence's clock, HIV broke out across Indiana. Literally. Because he was just defunding all these Planned Parenthoods. He was shutting them down. And people were not having protective sex. They couldn't get tests. And it just broke out. And then in one city where he shut it down, Austin, Indiana, he shut down a Planned Parenthood. And 190 people had HIV there because this man shut it down. He literally had to call up different people and politicians to get help to figure out how he could solve it. I mean, the guy's just straight up idiot. Mike Pence is also known for hating poor people. So not only does he hate gays, not only does he have a passion towards destroying Planned Parenthood, but he also really, really hates poor people with a passion. It sounds crazy because everything you already know about him sounds surreal, but it's true. He yanked food stamps from people that didn't have jobs. These are people that were still struggling since the 2008 financial crisis. Indiana is a Rust Belt state. They've lost a lot of manufacturing jobs. People are on food stamps. They needed help. He went ahead and took their food stamps away from them, put them even deeper into poverty. And he didn't care. He also yanked $3.5 million from this needy family program. And then he put that cash in a fake pregnancy center that doesn't provide any healthcare services for women at all. It's like a fake Planned Parenthood, like a really watered down one. It's just straight up fraud. It was probably ran by one of his corrupt buddies up there in Washington. So for a progressive or a moderate Democrat, a Mike Pence presidency is a living nightmare. The guy is a wacko and will do anything in his power to make America go back as far as possible. Take rights away from women. Let HIV run across the country. And screw over poor people anytime he gets a shot. And this is the crazy thing. So you're probably thinking, if you're a Republican or if you're a conservative, you're thinking, okay, well, that's great. Mike Pence. Yeah, he's making America become conservative again. Great, I'm all about that. But the sad thing is, even hardcore conservatives don't like Pence. In fact, a lot of them hate him with a passion. And I mean with a serious passion. Because he's a fraud. He's lied a lot. And he's very weak. He's as weak as probably like a small child. He gets scared under pressure and he collapses and he folds all the time. When Mike Pence was desperate with his HIV breakout and went ahead and rolled out Obamacare, like he needed it. A policy that conservatives just hate. And he backed off on a religious freedom bill because the media scared him. He was getting phone calls all the time from journalists. He saw his name all over the news just saying terrible things. So he pretty much was just, he was for this bill, got all this media attention, and he just completely ran away and decided not to do a lot of things he wanted to do. And not only that, but conservatives can't stand him because he has sold out Indiana workers. He sold out his own people to developing countries. He voted yes on every free trade bill that came across his desk, including a free trade bill to Peru, Panama, Korea, Singapore, and Chile. And he voted to keep America in a World Trade Organization, which pretty much puts us on equal footing with China. And he also wrote a lengthy letter urging support for TPP, TPA, and TTIP, everything that Trump, Bernie Sanders, and Hillary Clinton are completely against, because it will ship over our low manufacturing jobs that America desperately needs right now overseas to developing countries. And even on immigration, he has said many times that immigrants are welcome to America. And he's even tweeted it a few times. And he has said that Donald Trump's Muslim ban is offensive and unconstitutional. Donald Trump's policies and Mike Pence's policies don't even fit together. They're completely different people. But Trump was just totally desperate. He had to choose somebody. And Mike Pence was desperate. The story between Mike Pence and Donald Trump was a story of desperation. A story of two men that really needed each other at the perfect time. Mike Pence was getting ready to get thrown out as governor. Donald Trump didn't have anybody. Rubio didn't want to go be his VP. Ted Cruz didn't. Paul Ryan wouldn't be crazy enough to do it. He had to choose the trash of the trash, the bottom of the barrel. So Pence claims to be a pure American and Christian conservative, but he's always backed down when times have gotten hard. He really has. Everything from his abortion bill, from the freedom religious right, every major conservative bill, when it came down to it, he backed off and reversed his position. He's used to folding when the media hits him hard. And for some reason, Donald Trump, who was super desperate for a VP, had to choose this maniac. Mike Pence would be disastrous for America. Literally a disaster. He would go down as the worst president ever in history. Ever. If you look at Mike Pence's history, he would launch some crazy policies that would hurt poor people and discriminate against all kinds of groups. And then what he would do is he would backpedal like he did as governor. So he would he would try to ban abortion across the country, and then all of a sudden HIV would be popping up and so these legal abortion centers, and he'd be forced to go back. He's like a yo-yo, up and down, up and down, up and down. He tries something crazy, he gets scared, he runs back home. That's what he does. At least Dick Cheney had a spine, despite the fact we all don't like Dick Cheney. He had a spine, and he at least executed what he said he was going to do. And keep in mind that Mike Pence was also, when we're on to, since we're talking about Dick Cheney, he was also all about the Iraq War. He was totally hawkish on it. So that's all I have to say about Mike Pence. Even if you're a hardcore Republican, the Trump and Pence ticket is disastrous because, as Trump said, Mike Pence will be running it. Mike Pence will be pretty much, essentially, the president, the guy making all domestic and foreign policy decisions, while Donald Trump will kind of be the spokesman, right, making America great again. And let's be real, everybody. Like I said earlier, the only reason Mike Pence took this job is because he was going to lose re-election. There's no way he's going to win. And Donald Trump had nobody else he could choose from. This is a story between two lonely and desperate men that needed each other at the perfect time. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. And if so, go ahead and subscribe. You'll see that red button down below. Subscribe, give it a like, and come back every day for new videos that dig deep into the issues of American politics and bring a new and progressive view to it. I hope to see you all soon. Peace out.